Hi everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Today's story is about a vampire idol, a billionaire alpha werewolf CEO, a chaotic romance, and a mystery hidden within an ancient bloodline. This is actually my first time trying this kind of fantasy genre, so I really hope you all will enjoy it. And if you'd like to listen to the full story with bonus scenes and extra content, check out my Patreon. I will pin the link in the comment. Now, let's grab your snacks and enjoy the story.
Chapter 1. The Bite That Broke the Internet. In a world where humans and supernatural beings coexisted peacefully, it wasn't unusual to see vampires working as doctors, werewolves running corporations, mermaids becoming Olympic swimmers, or dragons serving as government officials. Everyone lived side by side. Well, mostly peacefully. Because there was one particular vampire who woke up every morning and chose violence. His name was Lucien Nightshade. World-famous vampire idol, singer, actor, model, professional menace, and the biggest headache in the entertainment industry. Good evening, little bloodbags. The moment Lucien greeted his livestream viewers, millions of comments exploded across the screen. He's so pretty. Marry me. Lucien, I failed my exam, please sing for me. I'd sell my soul for him. Lucien smirked. You people need hobbies. The comments somehow increased. Meanwhile, standing directly behind him was a man who looked completely out of place in an idol livestream. Tall, intimidating, broad shoulders, golden eyes, sharp jawline. The kind of face that made people nervous. The kind of aura that made people move out of the way without being asked. Dorian Blackthorne, CEO of Blackthorne Global, alpha werewolf, leader of the largest werewolf pack in Northern Hemisphere, billionaire, business genius, and unfortunately, Lucien's personal stalker. Dorian. Why are you here? You invited me. I invited you to leave. Dorian smiled. His smile was so rare that entire financial markets had once panicked when investors saw him smiling during an interview. His employees called it the end times smile, because it usually meant something terrifying was about to happen. Unfortunately for everyone, Lucien was immune. You're staring again. I like looking at you. That's creepy. I know. The comments exploded. 5 years ago, Dorian Blackthorne had been a completely different person. Cold, emotionless, terrifying. His employees feared him. His competitors feared him. Even supernatural council members preferred not to argue with him. The alpha rarely smiled, rarely spoke, rarely showed emotion. Board meetings felt like funerals. One time, a manager accidentally misspelled Dorian's name in a presentation. The poor man had nearly fainted from fear. Sir, should we approve the merger? No. Why? I don't like them. That was the entire explanation. Nobody argued. Because nobody wanted to die. Even his own pack was careful around him. They respected him. They trusted him. But they were terrified of him. Until 5 years ago, a young vampire had accidentally crashed into him backstage during a charity concert. Literally crashed into him. Dorian still remembered it. One moment he was speaking to politicians, the next, bam. A blur of silver hair collided directly into his chest. Both of them fell. Coffee flew everywhere. Someone screamed. And a tiny vampire wearing sunglasses looked down at him. Oh. The vampire blinked. You're expensive looking. Dorian stared. The vampire stared back. Then the vampire casually stole Dorian's untouched coffee. Thanks. And walked away. Dorian had never recovered. When he later discovered that the silver-haired menace was Lucien Nightshade, things got worse, much worse. Because Lucien wasn't normal. The idol vampire had absolutely no survival instincts. None. Zero. He bullied everyone equally. Fans, friends, managers, reporters, even supernatural kings. Nobody was safe. Lucien, stop provoking the Vampire Council. No. They can arrest you. They can try. Lucien? Skill issue. Lucien, why did you tell your fans you're adopting a crocodile? I was bored. You don't even have a crocodile. I do now. The crocodile had indeed appeared 2 days later. Nobody knew where he got it, and somehow, the more Dorian watched him, the deeper he fell. His human secretary, Oliver Reed, witnessed everything firsthand. Unfortunately. Sir? Yes? You purchased all tickets to Lucien Nightshade's concert. Correct. Why? So nobody bothers him. Oliver closed his eyes. Sir? Yes? That's not normal. 3 months later. Sir. Yes. You purchased the building beside Lucien's apartment. Correct. Why? So I can be closer. Oliver started updating his resume. 1 year later, sir. Yes? You bought an island. Correct. Why? He said he wanted peace and quiet. Did he ask for the island? No? Then why buy it? Dorian looked confused. Oliver wanted to cry. Meanwhile, Lucien's response to all this attention was simple. Violence. Go away. No. I'll bite you. Okay. You sound happy about that. I am. Back in the present, Lucien was rapidly losing patience. Millions of viewers were watching. Dorian was standing too close, again. You're breathing on me. I miss you. We had breakfast together. It felt like 10 years. The comments became unreadable. He's down bad. Someone help the CEO. That werewolf is gone. Pack leader? More like lovesick puppy. Lucien's eye twitched. Once, twice, 3 times. That was the warning sign. Unfortunately, Dorian never learned. You're cute when you're angry. Silence, absolute silence. Lucien slowly turned toward him. Dorian smiled lovingly. The viewers held their breath. Oliver, who was watching from the company headquarters, immediately whispered a prayer. Too late. Lucien grabbed Dorian's collar, pulled him down, and sank his fangs directly into his shoulder. Chomp. Silence. The entire livestream froze, the comments stopped. For 3 whole seconds, then chaos erupted. Oh my god, they kissed. That's not a kiss. That's foreplay for supernaturals. Someone record this. Pac Luna confirmed. Lucien froze. His eyes slowly drifted toward the camera. The camera stared back. The livestream stared back. 23 million viewers stared back. Dorian blinked, then looked delighted. Baby, don't. We were live. Shut up. We are still live. Lucien looked at the viewer count. 23 million. 23 million witnesses. 23 million future problems. He disconnected the stream immediately. The next thing everyone heard was a distant scream. 3 hours later, the internet was burning. Hashtag vampire bite the CEO. Hashtag PacLuna. Hashtag Alphax vampire. Hashtag Mary Himmel ready. Every news channel covered it. Every supernatural community discussed it. Every fan account was losing their mind. Meanwhile, inside Lucien's mansion, a giant black wolf rolled around on the carpet, tail wagging so hard it nearly broke furniture. Looking unbelievably pleased with himself, Lucien stared. You caused this. The wolf barked happily. Lucien kicked him. The tail wagged faster. Why are you happy? The wolf rolled onto his back, tongue hanging out, completely shameless. Lucien dropped onto the couch, exhausted, defeated, wondering where his life had gone wrong. The giant wolf crawled over, placed his massive head on Lucien's lap, and looked up with giant puppy eyes. Lucien sighed. For the 500th time that week, then absent-mindedly scratched behind his ears. The tail instantly became a helicopter. Outside, the entire world thought the billionaire alpha werewolf was a terrifying king, a ruthless corporate monster, a legendary pack leader. Inside Lucien's mansion, he was just a giant lovesick dog, and somehow, that was everyone's biggest problem. Chapter 2. The world's most expensive courtship. 1 month after the bite that broke the internet, Lucien Nightshade discovered that life could always get worse. Much, much worse. One peaceful morning, the vampire woke up, stretched lazily, and walked toward his bedroom window. The moment he pulled open the curtains, he screamed. Outside his mansion stood a mountain. Not a normal mountain, a mountain of flowers. 500 bouquets. Again, roses, lilies, tulips, orchids, sunflowers, moon blossoms, blood roses, even several carnivorous supernatural flowers that occasionally snapped at passing birds. Lucien stared. The flowers stared back. One flower hissed. A familiar card sat on top. Good morning, my future husband. Dorian. The vampire immediately grabbed his phone. The call connected instantly, as if the werewolf had been waiting, which he definitely had. Are you insane? Good morning to you too. Why are there flowers again? I love you. I don't. I know. The alpha sounded delighted. Lucien wanted to throw himself into traffic. Meanwhile, inside Blackthorne Global, The employees watched their CEO smiling at his phone. Everyone immediately became nervous. Very nervous. The last time Dorian smiled this much, he bought an island. His human secretary, Oliver Reed, slowly approached. Sir. Yes? You sent 500 bouquets again. Correct. Why? I love him. Oliver nodded. He wasn't even surprised anymore. 5 years ago, he would have questioned it. Now? Now he simply updated a spreadsheet titled, Things Our CEO Has Purchased for Lucien This Month. The document was already 60 pages long. Courtship somehow became worse. Dorian purchased 20 giant billboards across the city. Each one displayed Lucien's face, along with messages like, You look beautiful today. Remember to drink water. I love you. Dorian. Lucien hacked every single billboard. Within 10 minutes, they all changed. Stop being weird. Get a hobby. I'm not marrying you. Lucien. Dorian took pictures and framed them. Then came the yacht incident. Dorian bought him a luxury yacht, a gigantic one. The name painted across the side read, My Forever Love. Lucien stared at it, then stared at Dorian, then stared at the ocean, then stared at Dorian again. 3 hours later, the yacht had a new name. Leave me alone. Dorian looked emotional. I love your creativity. Lucien nearly jumped into the sea. This was normal, unfortunately. Because when Dorian became extremely happy, he shifted into his giant wolf form. And when Lucien became extremely annoyed, he shifted into a tiny bat. Not a terrifying vampire bat, not an intimidating bat, not even a cool bat. A tiny fluffy bat, the size of a potato. One afternoon, after Dorian had gifted him a private jet, for no reason, Lucien finally snapped. You bought what? A jet. Why? So your concerts are more comfortable. I already have 3. You look tired. That was it. Lucien transformed. Poof! A tiny silver bat appeared. Squeak! And immediately flew toward the highest chandelier in the mansion. Everyone sighed. Again. House staff? Used to it. Manager? Used to it. Oliver? Used to it. Dorian's beta? Used to it. Even the security guards were used to it. The headmaid looked up. How long this time? Oliver checked his watch. 3 hours. Reason? Private jet. Understandable. Above them, tiny bat Lucien hung upside down, refusing to come down. Dorian stood below him. Lucien. Squeak. Come down. Squeak. I'll buy you ice cream. Squeak. No. Squeak. 3 hours later, Dorian returned carrying something, a special net. Soft, gentle, custom-made, specifically designed for catching one stubborn vampire. Oliver stared. You actually commissioned a bat-catching net. Of course. You spent $50,000 on that. Worth it. 5 minutes later, success. The tiny bat was caught. Without injury, without drama. Well, minimal drama. Dorian carefully lifted the grumpy bat from the net, as though handling priceless treasure, which, to him, he was. The tiny bat immediately puffed his cheeks. Squeak. I'm sorry. Squeak. I love you. Squeak. Then Dorian kissed the tiny bat's forehead. The bat froze, turned bright red, and hid beneath his own wings. Everyone in the room collectively sighed. Seriously, Oliver muttered. When are they getting married? The entire household nodded, because honestly, they already acted like an old married couple. 5 years. 5 whole years. Somewhere during those years, Lucien had fallen hard. He loved Dorian's loyalty, his patience, his ridiculous devotion, his gentleness. The way the feared alpha became soft only for him. But admitting it? Absolutely not. Lucien Nightshade was a menace. Menaces never surrendered. Okay. Maybe surrendering to one giant clingy werewolf wouldn't be so terrible. One evening, after finishing a month worth of concerts, interviews, meetings, and advertisements, Lucien sat on the mansion rooftop, watching the stars. Dorian quietly joined him. Lucien. What? Even if you reject me forever. The alpha smiled softly. I'll still love you. The words were simple, but they struck deeper than any grand gesture ever had. For the first time in years, Lucien's heart skipped. Idiot. Dorian grinned. Lucien immediately punched him. The werewolf looked delighted. Then suddenly, poof, Lucien transformed into his tiny bat form. Dorian automatically opened his arms. The tiny bat flew directly onto his lap. Silence. Everyone watching from inside the mansion froze. Oliver blinked, the headmaid blinked, the manager blinked, because for the first time, Lucien hadn't flown to the chandelier. Instead, he chose Dorian. The alpha looked stunned, then impossibly happy. Carefully, gently, he stroked the tiny bat's fluffy head. The bat allowed it. Oliver immediately burst into tears. It's happening. 3 months later, it finally happened. Dorian invited Lucien to the place where they first met. The charity concert, the exact backstage hallway. Lucien immediately became suspicious. Why are there flowers? No reason. Why is there music? No reason. Why are you nervous? No reason. The werewolf was absolutely terrible at lying. Then Dorian knelt. The entire world stopped. Even Lucien froze. The alpha pulled out a ring. Not expensive, not flashy, simple, beautiful. Perfect. Lucien Nightshade. Dorian swallowed, actually nervous for the first time in years. I've loved you for 5 years. You're annoying. I know. You're clingy. I know. You're ridiculous. I know. Dorian smiled. But I love you anyway. Silence. Everyone secretly watching nearby held their breath. Will you marry me? The alpha waited. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then Lucien covered his face. Took you long enough? Silence. Dorian froze. Oliver screamed. The manager screamed. The security guard screamed. Somewhere a maid fainted. Dorian stared. Is that a yes? Lucien rolled his eyes. Obviously, you oversized puppy. The ring was on his finger before he finished speaking. 6 months later, the entire world watched the wedding. The vampire idol. And the Alpha CEO. Finally married. Humans celebrated. Werewolves celebrated. Vampires celebrated. Fans celebrated. The internet nearly crashed. Even Oliver cried through the entire ceremony. They finally did it. Everyone was happy. Everyone. Except, far away, hidden within the darkness of an ancient castle, a pair of crimson eyes stared at a photograph of Lucien. Old, ancient, dangerous. The owner of those eyes slowly rose from his throne. A silver crest rested in his hand, a crest belonging to a bloodline believed extinct. His lips curled into a smile. Found him. And for the first time in centuries, the ancient shadows of vampire society began to move. Unaware of the danger approaching, the world's happiest newlyweds continued their honeymoon, arguing over whether 500 bouquets were romantic or a public nuisance. The answer was still under debate. Chapter 3. The Lost Heir and the War of Clans. A few months after the wedding, life inside the Blackthorne mansion was surprisingly normal. Well, as normal as life could be when one husband was a world-famous vampire idol and the other was a billionaire alpha werewolf who treated his spouse like a national treasure. Dorian. Your wolf is staring at me again. That's me, I know. Then say Dorian is staring at you. No. Lucien continued eating his breakfast. Dorian continued staring. Nothing new? The only difference was that lately, something strange had been happening. Very strange. His senses had become sharper. His speed had increased dramatically. And sometimes, he could see things before they happened. Tiny glimpses, tiny flashes, moments that hadn't occurred yet. At first he thought he was imagining it, until he caught a glass before it fell. 3 seconds before it actually fell. Then he dodged a flying microphone backstage before someone accidentally threw it. Then he predicted exactly what Dorian was going to say during an argument. You're becoming creepy. I learned from the best. Lucien looked proud. Dorian looked concerned. Things became even stranger when doctors confirmed another piece of news. A much bigger piece of news. Lucien was pregnant. Silence filled the examination room. Dorian blinked, once, twice, 3 times. Then he fainted. He fainted! The alpha fainted! Get water! The doctors panicked. Lucien laughed so hard he nearly cried. Mixed-species pregnancies were rare, not impossible, but rare enough that the entire supernatural medical community became interested overnight. Naturally, the news leaked, the internet exploded, again. Hashtag baby Blackthorne, hashtag heir, hashtag vampire princess, hashtag vampire dead. Dorian immediately hired additional security. 24 hours later, he hired more, then more, then more. Dorian. Yes? Why are there 12 guards outside the nursery? Protection? The baby isn't even born yet. Exactly. Lucien buried his face in his hands. The awakening of his strange powers worried them both. Because modern supernatural races had lost most of their ancestral abilities centuries ago. Ancient powers simply didn't exist anymore. Or so everyone believed. Something wasn't right. Which led them to a place Lucien hadn't visited in years. His childhood home, the old Nightshade estate. The mansion stood abandoned, silent, covered in dust, filled with memories. For the first time since his parents' deaths, Lucien stepped inside. Dorian quietly held his hand. No teasing, no jokes, just support. That night they explored room after room, hallway after hallway, until Lucien felt something, a pull, a strange feeling. It led him to a forgotten room hidden behind a concealed wall. There, inside an ancient chest, rested a necklace, his mother's necklace, the one she'd given him before her death. The silver moon surrounded by 13 crimson stars. Except now, it glowed. The moment Lucien touched it, scarlet light erupted through the room. Ancient symbols appeared on the walls. Blood magic danced through the air, and for a brief second, a vision flashed before his eyes. A castle, a throne, a massacre, screams, blood, fire. Then it vanished. Dorian immediately pulled him close. Lucien, I'm okay. You don't look okay. I know. The necklace came home with them. And when grandmother Yaren saw it, she dropped her tea. Impossible. What? That's the crest of House Draven. Dorian frowned. The royal clan that disappeared 80 years ago? Yaren's hands trembled. They didn't disappear. They were massacred. Silence filled the room. Their bloodline possessed powers powerful enough to terrify supernatural society. Everything suddenly made sense. The powers, the visions, the awakening. Weeks of investigation followed, ancient records surfaced, hidden archives opened, magic DNA tests were performed. The truth became undeniable. Lucien Nightshade wasn't an ordinary vampire. He was the last surviving heir of House Draven, the crown prince of the most powerful vampire bloodline in history, and his parents had died protecting him. For the first time in years, Lucien cried. Not because he was afraid, not because he was angry, because he finally understood. Dorian simply held him, the same way he always did. Then chaos began. Somehow everyone knew. Every vampire noble suddenly appeared. Some wanted alliances. Some wanted influence. Some wanted power. Some wanted access to his unborn child. And some wanted the throne. One noble even suggested ending Lucien's marriage. That mistake happened during the first council meeting. We request Prince Lucien return to vampire territory and separate from the werewolf. Crunch. Everyone froze. Dorian had accidentally crushed the armrest. His smile remained. His eyes did not. Repeat that. Nobody repeated it. Smart choice. Unfortunately, not everyone was smart. Demands continued. Political proposals, inheritance claims, marriage requests, royal nonsense. Dorian listened quietly, very quietly, too quietly. Lucien immediately recognized the danger. Oh no. Oliver looked nervous. What? He's being calm. A week later, the consequences arrived. Every company connected to those nobles collapsed, stocks crashed, contracts vanished, investors disappeared, entire kingdoms entered financial panic. The supernatural stock market looked like a battlefield. Lucien stared at the reports, then stared at his husband, then stared at the reports again. You declared economic warfare. Dorian sipped coffee. They touched my husband. You crashed 3 kingdoms. They touched my husband. One of them is bankrupt. They touched my husband. Oliver began updating his resume again. Meanwhile, Lucien found the entire situation hilarious. He technically could have handled everything himself. His awakened blood powers were terrifying. Entire armies could potentially fall before him. But every time he tried to help, no. Dorian, no. I can literally erase their blood magic. No. Why? You're pregnant. Lucien groaned. Months passed, concerts continued, corporate meetings continued, marriage continued. And surprisingly, domestic life became their favorite thing. Movie nights, late-night snacks, arguing over furniture. Dorian secretly replacing broken items before Lucien noticed. The mansion staff often found them asleep on the couch, one wrapped around the other. Nobody had the heart to wake them. Eventually, their daughter was born. A beautiful little girl, silver-haired, golden-eyed, a perfect combination of both parents. Her name was Lucien Nightshade Blackthorne, and she was a menace, immediately. At 3 months old, she accidentally turned into a wolf pup. At 6 months old, she learned how to turn into a bat. At 9 months old, she somehow locked 3 bodyguards inside a closet. Nobody knew how. She's exactly like you. Dorian sighed. Lucien looked proud. You say that like it's a bad thing. Time passed peacefully. The vampire clans accepted them. The werewolf packs accepted them. Humans accepted them. Mostly. One evening, Lucien sat comfortably on Dorian's lap while watching the sunset. Still obsessed with me? Dorian kissed his forehead. More than yesterday. Lucien rolled his eyes. Hopeless. Your hopeless husband. Unfortunately. Dorian looked offended. Lucien laughed. A giant wolf tail immediately started wagging. Everything was perfect. Or at least, it appeared perfect, because far away, hidden beneath the ruins of an ancient castle, a shadow moved. A single crimson eye opened. Old, patient, waiting. On a stone table rested a faded portrait. A portrait of House Draven. And at its center, Lucien. The figure smiled. Let them be happy. The shadows stirred. For now. And somewhere beyond the safety of their peaceful life, something ancient was beginning to wake, unaware of the approaching storm. The Blackthorne family continued laughing together, while fate quietly counted down the days until the shadows emerged once more.